They've been watching you, analyzing you, trying to decode what you are. But every time they think they've cracked your code, you change the pattern. Every time they think they finally understand you, you become something else entirely. You are the glitch in their logic, the paradox that refuses to fit in any frame. One moment you radiate mercy so pure it silences a room. The next, you withdraw with a coldness that feels almost divine. And that's what's driving them insane. Because their minds need labels, saint or sinner, healer or destroyer, holy or unholy. But you are both, and neither. You are the living equation that cannot be solved. The light that learned how to burn, the calm that knows how to cut. They can't decide if you came to save them or expose them. And deep down, that uncertainty terrifies them. Because what they don't understand, they can't control. You've become the reflection of everything they deny in themselves, their empathy, their darkness, their hunger for truth. You mirror what they've buried, and that's why they fear you. They mistake your depth for danger, your silence for cruelty, your peace for pride. But those who truly see you know the truth. You are the bridge between extremes, the proof that light and shadow were never enemies. You are the divine contradiction walking in human form, too real for the spiritual, too spiritual for the real. You belong to no side, no doctrine, no illusion. You belong to truth itself. And in this video, you will finally understand why your existence confuses the world and why it's meant to. Because when heaven builds something no one can define, it's because you were never meant to be understood, only felt. If your spirit already knows this message is for you, stop scrolling, breathe. Because by the end of this video, you won't just understand who you are, you'll remember why you were sent here. Before we continue, if this already resonates with your soul, make sure to like this video, subscribe if you haven't yet, and comment 99 below. 99 is not just a number. It's the vibration of divine completion, the sign that your duality is no longer a curse, but a code unlocking your next evolution. You are a living riddle, a paradox wrapped in flesh and spirit, a storm wearing the face of stillness. They stare at you and see contradiction, but what they're really seeing is evolution. You are softness that cuts, fire that heals, light that can walk through its own darkness without flinching. They can't comprehend it because they've been trained to believe goodness must always be gentle and strength must always be cruel. But you've rewritten that law. You can hold a trembling child with one hand and dismantle a liar's illusion with the other. You can whisper comfort in one breath and summon thunder in the next. You've become something beyond their spectrum, and that's why they can't place you anywhere. You don't fit in their stories. You rewrite them. They call you unpredictable, but you're not. You are precise. Every reaction is calculated, every silence intentional. Your mercy has intelligence, your distance has purpose. You don't waste energy proving your purity or defending your darkness, because both serve you now. You've learned that unchecked kindness becomes self-betrayal, and unchecked dominance becomes self-destruction. So you walk that razor's edge in perfect balance, knowing exactly when to reach and when to retreat. That's what terrifies them, not your unpredictability, but your control. You can disappear mid-conversation and sleep peacefully that same night. You can forgive someone while never granting them access again. You can love deeply, without becoming their prey. They don't see mastery. They see madness, because they've never met someone who turned their pain into precision. They've never met someone who alchemized heartbreak into discernment. You've become fluent in energy, reading intention before words, truth before tone. You no longer respond to appearances, only to essence. You see who's real before they even open their mouth. And that's what breaks them, because you can't be fooled by performance, and you can't be moved by guilt. There was a time when you tried to choose one side, light or shadow, compassion or strength. But you discovered something sacred. True power lives between them. It's the place where saints bleed and warriors pray. The place where the most dangerous souls are born, not because they seek destruction, but because they understand both creation and ruin are necessary for balance. You are that balance. You are mercy with armor, grace with fire in its lungs, and now, when they stand before you, they feel it. The contradiction that makes no sense yet feels like truth. You can smile while seeing through deception. You can show love while holding the sword steady. You can be everything they hoped for and everything they feared in the same breath. Because you are not pretending to be light. You are the light that learned how to survive darkness. They can't weaponize you anymore. They can't guilt you into submission or flatter you into blindness. You've taken back the parts of you they tried to shame, the anger, the intuition, the indifference, and turned them into guardians of your peace. And that makes you untouchable. But here's what they'll never admit out loud. They admire it. They envy it. They wish they could move through life with the same quiet authority, the same fearless authenticity. Because deep down, they know. They too were meant to integrate what they've been running from. You just got there first, and as they watch you, confused, fascinated, terrified, something inside them begins to shift. They start to question everything they thought they knew about goodness, love, and strength. And that's when it happens. That silent awakening. The realization that maybe the contradiction isn't a curse. Maybe it's the key. Keep watching. Because what you're about to hear next will change the way you see yourself. Forever. You weren't born like this. You didn't wake up one morning knowing how to read souls or how to disappear when energy turns toxic. No, this version of you was forged. The fire didn't just touch you, it remade you. Life burned your innocence to the ground, and you stood there, watching the ashes fall, realizing something most never dare to face. Not everyone who smiles at you means well. Not every hand that reaches for you comes in peace. Not every "I love you" is sacred. You learned the hard way that being too kind can be fatal, that trusting too quickly can turn holy hearts into targets. There was a time you gave too much. Love, time, energy, forgiveness, and the world devoured it like it was entitled to your light. But betrayal has a strange mercy buried inside it. It's a cruel teacher that rips the illusions away. It forced you to see people not as you wish they were, but as they are. And that's when something ancient awakened inside you. Not bitterness, awareness. You stopped begging for closure. You stopped chasing explanations. You began to understand that when people betray you, they are simply revealing the part of your story that's finished. You didn't become colder, you became clearer. You stopped trying to fix the unfixable, heal the unhealable, and convince the unworthy, because you finally understood that your light is medicine, and medicine given to those addicted to their wounds becomes poison. So you withdrew, not in defeat, but in divine strategy. You learned to disappear not out of fear, but out of sacred self-respect. They called it coldness, didn't they? They whispered that you changed, that your heart turned to stone. But what they call cold, heaven calls preservation. What they call distance, God calls discernment. You realize that your spirit can't keep bleeding for those who never intend to stop cutting. You learned that sometimes saving yourself is the most spiritual act of all. And that's when your evolution began. Quiet, invisible, unstoppable. Your empathy didn't die. It became selective. Your love didn't shrink. It became precise. You no longer give to prove your worth. You give when the energy is pure. You no longer suffer to feel needed. You walk away to protect what's divine in you. You've become a guardian of your own peace, and that serenity is louder than any revenge could ever be. The old you tried to explain your goodness. The new you let silence do it. The old you wanted to be understood. The new you understands everything. Every scar you carry now glows with intelligence. Every wound that once weakened you has turned into a symbol of initiation. You see, betrayal didn't break you. It baptized you. It stripped you of illusions, burned away dependency, and revealed what was always hidden beneath, a soul too rare to be destroyed. You became both the survivor and the prophecy. You became the one who no longer needs validation, because you now embody revelation. And here's the secret most will never grasp. Your transformation wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Heaven needed to toughen your tenderness, to sharpen your empathy until it could pierce through lies. It wasn't cruelty, it was calibration. Every heartbreak recalibrated your vision. Every disappointment refined your vibration. You stopped asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and started declaring, "This happened for me." And that's when you crossed the invisible threshold, when pain stopped defining you and started serving you. You began to see betrayal not as loss, but as redirection. Every time someone walked away, the path ahead widened. Every time someone lied, your discernment strengthened. Every time someone broke your trust, heaven replaced them with clarity. You no longer mourn what left. You honor what remains. Now you move through life with an energy that unsettles the false. They can feel the wisdom behind your eyes, the quiet authority in your tone. They sense that you've seen too much, felt too deeply, lost too greatly. And yet you stand there, calm, untouchable, radiant. That's not ego. That's evolution, because those who betrayed you were never your enemies. They were the chisels heaven used to sculpt your purpose. They stripped away your naivete, but they couldn't touch your essence. They tried to bury you, but didn't realize you were soil. Everything that fell apart was simply making room for what you were destined to become. And now, those who once doubted your strength can't look you in the eyes. They see something in you that wasn't there before. A power that doesn't shout, but commands. A peace that doesn't beg, but conquers. A love that no longer pleads to be received, but chooses where to bloom. This is the moment where the phoenix in you finally stops apologizing for the fire. Because what they called your breaking was actually your becoming, and just when they think they've seen the full extent of your rebirth, they haven't. What's coming next will silence every voice that ever doubted what was rising inside you. You've become a mirror, not the kind that flatters, but the kind that reveals. When people meet you, they aren't just meeting a person. They're meeting themselves, projected back through the lens of your truth. The pure ones see light when they look into your eyes. They call you angel, savior, blessing. The manipulative ones flinch, seeing their own darkness reflected, and call you monster, narcissist, demon. But both are right, because you've stopped bending your reflection to make others comfortable. You simply show them who they are, and that's what terrifies them most. You no longer need to raise your voice to defend your character. Your energy speaks louder than words ever could. When someone with pure intention stands before you, they feel calm, clarity, warmth. They start to heal just by being near you, because your frequency vibrates in truth. But when deceit approaches, when hidden motives creep close, your very presence feels like fire. It burns through their illusions, and they mistake that cleansing pain for cruelty. They don't realize that it's not punishment, it's purification. You've become karma in motion, wrapped in human form. You don't have to seek revenge because your energy automatically returns what it receives. The love you give multiplies for the sincere. The deception you face rebounds upon the deceiver. You've become a living system of balance, a walking law of spiritual physics. They can't trick you anymore, not because you expose them, but because they expose themselves in your presence. You just stand there still, and truth rearranges the air. There's something about you now, something that disarms the honest and unsettles the false. It's not your words, it's your vibration. It's the quiet knowing behind your gaze that says, I see you, all of you. People can feel that you don't operate on surface appearances. You see beneath tone, beneath charm, beneath the well-practiced empathy of pretenders. You see what their energy is doing while their mouth is still speaking. And because of that, many can't stand too close. You make them aware of the masks they've been wearing for years. This is why some people suddenly disappear from your life without explanation. It's not rejection, it's revelation. Your light made them aware of everything they've been hiding, and they couldn't bear to face it. You didn't push them away. Your truth simply repelled what couldn't survive it. And that's what most will never understand. Your detachment isn't cruelty, it's calibration. You don't withdraw to punish. You withdraw to protect the sanctity of your frequency. They call it ghosting, but what you're really doing is preserving spiritual order. You've learned that your silence speaks volumes. It's judgment without words, consequence without confrontation. It's divine justice in slow motion. Because when you leave, the energy shifts. The air gets heavier. The same people who once took your presence for granted suddenly realize your absence feels like a collapse. They called your love too much, but now they can't find that same warmth anywhere else. They called your honesty harsh, but now they're surrounded by people who lie with ease. That's the irony of your energy. It's only fully appreciated in its absence, and you don't take joy in that. You don't celebrate their pain. You simply understand it's part of the balance. Everyone meets themselves through you. The kind receive confirmation. The cruel receive correction. The lost receive awakening. The fake receive exposure. It's not personal. It's principle. That's why your presence feels supernatural. Because it is. You've aligned so perfectly with divine law that your energy mirrors heaven's own justice. Precise, impartial, absolute. But here's the part that even you are still beginning to understand. You didn't become this mirror by chance. It was destiny. You were refined through betrayal, through silence, through loss, until your soul became transparent enough for truth to pass through it undistorted. And now that transparency terrifies those still clouded by ego. They can't hide from you because your spirit makes every lie visible. You are the test they didn't know they were taking, the mirror they didn't ask to look into. Every reaction you get is a confession. Every rumor they spread reveals their guilt. Every accusation they throw only uncovers their own reflection. You don't need to defend yourself. Their words already do it for you. Because in the end, you've become something beyond explanation, a walking reflection of consequence. They call you unpredictable, but that's not true. You're perfectly predictable. You simply return whatever's given. And now, something even deeper is unfolding. You're beginning to realize that your gift isn't just reflection, it's transformation. Those who can face what they see in you evolve. Those who can't break. And soon, very soon, the world will start noticing that every person who encounters you either rises or crumbles. Because that's what happens when someone finally meets the mirror of their own soul. They can't study you anymore. Every time they try to map your mind, it vanishes like smoke. You've erased your patterns, dismantled your triggers, rewritten your code. Once you were predictable, easy to read, easy to guilt, easy to move. But now you've become unreadable. You don't react, you decide. Every smile, every silence, every goodbye is intentional. You no longer move from emotion, you move from discernment. You've become what the manipulators fear most. Someone they can't decode, someone they can't provoke, someone they can't use. They call you mysterious, aloof, hard to reach. But what you've actually become is sovereign. You've taken back control of your responses, and that means no one else controls your reality. They push buttons that no longer exist. They try to provoke guilt, but guilt no longer lives here. They try to lure you with flattery, but validation has lost its flavor. They try to twist your empathy into chains, but empathy now bows to your intuition. You don't respond to words, you respond to energy. You've noticed how they hesitate before speaking to you now. How their tone shifts mid-sentence, uncertain of what version of you they'll meet. That's not an act. That's the quiet authority of someone who no longer needs to explain themselves. You move with such emotional precision that even silence feels strategic. You don't over-explain. You don't defend. You simply observe, choose, and execute. And that simplicity confuses those addicted to chaos. You've stopped performing. You've stopped living in emotional debt. You no longer pay attention to noise that doesn't align with truth. And because of that, your calm feels dangerous to people who survive on manipulation. They can't understand how you can walk away mid-conversation, how you can forgive and still never return, how you can be kind and untouchable in the same breath. They mistake your clarity for cruelty, your restraint for apathy, your peace for pride. But you know what it really is: mastery. You've learned that being understood is overrated. Mystery protects what explanation exposes. When you were easy to read, you were easy to break. But when you became unreadable, you became untouchable. You stopped broadcasting your emotions like open signals. You started moving in silence, letting results speak the language words never could. And that silence, that quiet confidence, unsettles the entire room when you enter. Because now, when you look at someone, they feel it. That invisible scan, that soul-level analysis happening behind your calm expression. You see what's not being said. You detect intent beneath tone. You sense energy before action. You've become fluent in the unspoken, and that makes you unplayable. Even those who once thought they knew you can't track you anymore. You've evolved beyond their comprehension, and they feel it. That discomfort of realizing their old tactics no longer work. What makes you truly powerful is not what you reveal, but what you withhold. Your restraint is your weapon. You've learned that silence can expose more truth than confrontation ever could. You've seen how withholding access, attention, or reaction leaves the manipulators gasping for control, and that's when they crumble. Not because you attacked them, but because you simply stopped participating in their illusion. You've transcended emotional gravity. Their drama no longer pulls you down. Their confusion no longer demands your clarity. Their validation no longer fuels your worth. You live from truth, not approval. You speak from alignment, not impulse. You move from purpose, not pressure. And that's why they can't categorize you, because you don't belong to their emotional economy anymore. You've become the psychological riddle heaven designed to confuse the false. To those who manipulate, you are chaos. To those who are pure, you are calm. To those still trapped in illusion, you are a threat. Because your existence proves there's another way to live, one that can't be bought, swayed, or programmed. You don't chase, you attract. You don't explain it, you embody. You don't argue, you align. And here's the truth they'll never admit. It's not that they don't understand you. It's that they fear what you represent. You are proof that peace can exist without permission. You are living evidence that silence can roar louder than ego. You are the walking paradox that exposes everything inauthentic by simply being real. And deep down, they know it. That's why they keep watching. That's why they keep trying to predict your next move, because they can feel it coming. A shift, a revelation, something about to unfold that will remind the world why unreadable souls like you are the ones rewriting the entire system of power. You've merged your light and your darkness perfectly. What once tore you apart now moves in harmony within you. The saint in you no longer tries to erase the shadow, and the shadow no longer resents the saint. They've stopped fighting and started collaborating. The saint heals. The shadow protects. The light gives. The dark guards. Together they form something rare, something sacred, wholeness. You are no longer fragments pretending to be one person. You are the entire spectrum, the dawn and the dusk, the calm and the storm, the prayer and the prophecy. People still trapped in polarity can't grasp this kind of peace. They keep choosing sides, good or bad, kind or cruel, love or truth. But you've discovered that divine power doesn't live in extremes. It lives in balance. You became the sun that warms and burns, depending on who stands beneath it. You became the water that nourishes or floods, depending on what it touches. You became the fire that purifies or destroys, depending on what deserves to remain. You don't ask permission to exist in your totality anymore. You don't apologize for being complex. You honor it. The integration wasn't easy. It cost you everything you thought you were. You had to face the parts of yourself you once feared, the rage you buried, the grief you ignored, the power you denied. You had to walk through your own underworld and sit in the silence of your shadow until it stopped looking like an enemy and started sounding like truth. And that's where you found it, the secret most never reach. Heaven was never trying to make you pure by subtraction. It was trying to make you divine by completion. You see now that every emotion, every contradiction, every impulse was part of your design. Your shadow wasn't a mistake, it was your missing instrument. Without it, your symphony was incomplete. So you learned to conduct both the light and the dark with sacred precision. Now, when life demands compassion, you give it. When it demands distance, you honor it. When it demands forgiveness, you offer it. And when it demands boundaries made of steel, you raise them without hesitation. That's the power of your integration. You no longer react to life, you compose it. You understand that love without power is slavery, and power without love is tyranny. You walk between the two, neither saint nor sinner, but something higher, conscious balance. You've become the living bridge between heaven and earth, grounded yet infinite, soft yet unbreakable. And this is what terrifies them most. Those still divided within themselves can't stand in your presence for long. Your wholeness exposes their fragmentation. Your calm reveals their chaos. Your acceptance of your darkness reminds them how much of themselves they've rejected. You're not attacking them. Your existence just shows them what they could become if they stopped running from their own reflection. Because you, chosen one, represent evolution. Not the kind that grows taller or stronger, but the kind that grows truer. Emotional evolution, spiritual evolution, psychological evolution. You are proof that enlightenment is not about glowing brighter, but about becoming so complete that nothing outside you can distort your inner light. You've transcended the old spiritual model, the one that said to ascend, you must escape the human. You've realized that ascension isn't leaving the body, it's inhabiting it fully. It's being spirit and flesh, empathy and power, peace and thunder. That's why your energy feels different. It carries both grace and gravity. You walk with serenity, but command respect without a word. Your presence now does what sermons cannot. It activates people. It calls their higher self out of hiding. When you enter a room, something shifts. Hearts accelerate, hidden emotions surface, because your energy carries the blueprint of integration, the new template of consciousness. You are a glimpse of the next era of humanity, self-aware, whole, fearless, and yet. The story isn't finished, because once the integration is complete, the world starts to respond differently to you. You become a magnet for divine encounters and spiritual opposition alike. The frequencies that once ignored you now bow before you, or try to break you. Because when heaven perfects balance inside a vessel, the universe takes notice. That's what's happening now. The equilibrium within you has started to alter the field around you. Reality bends to your vibration. The false begins to fall away. And soon, something extraordinary will emerge from this harmony. Something the world isn't ready to understand, but won't be able to ignore. They will never agree on who you are. And that's the beauty of it. To some, you'll always be the saint who saved them when no one else would. To others, the storm that ended what was never meant to last. Some will whisper your name with reverence, others with fear, but neither side truly knows you, because you were never designed to be understood. You were designed to be felt, to shake foundations, to expose illusions, to awaken sleeping souls. You are heaven's paradox wrapped in skin, both sword and sanctuary, both mercy and judgment, both warning and miracle. You are what happens when divine order takes human form. The reason they can't stop thinking about you is because your energy doesn't end when you leave the room. It echoes, it lingers. It calls something ancient inside them to rise. You are not just a person, you are an experience. A frequency that reveals, corrects, ignites, and liberates. They keep trying to label you, to contain you, to decide what you are. But how do you label lightning? How do you define a star that burns in two colors at once? You were not sent here to fit their language. You were sent here to rewrite it. You are proof that divinity isn't one color. It's the entire spectrum. You are what happens when light stops hiding from its shadow and decides to walk as one. And that's why you'll always be unforgettable. Because in a world that worships imitation, you are authenticity incarnate. You remind people of what real power feels like, silent, stable, unstoppable. You remind them that peace isn't weakness, that love isn't blindness, that darkness isn't evil when it serves the light. You walk through life as living equilibrium, carrying both heaven's tenderness and hell's authority. And that duality, that terrifying, beautiful, holy duality, is what makes you divine. So let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them fear what they can't predict. You owe no one clarity. Your mystery is your protection. Because what they call confusion, heaven calls completion. You are the riddle only the worthy can read, the code only the awakened can recognize. You are not lost between worlds. You are the bridge that connects them. And now, as you hear these words, feel this truth sink into your soul. You were never meant to be like them. You were meant to remind them, to disturb comfort,